future, shattered dreams, end of times ain't what it seems.
Hello friends, this is Sam Chaney reporting for Weaponized News. Today, December 9th, 2025. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday edition of Weaponized News. Give us that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button if it works. Shout out to Ruckus. Thank you very much for the shares daily. We do appreciate it here at Weaponized News. So thank you very much, Ruckus. It's like the only one that shares. So your shares do help. It truly does help to be shared from another account besides the Weaponized News account to try to break through all of these throttlings and other censorships on the internet. So again, give us that like, share, subscribe. Thank you again, Ruckus, for your sharing there on the X. All right, what do we got today? I want you to use AI. That's coming out of the Department of War, the future of American warfare. Yeah, it's full steam ahead with technocracy. We're waiting. I was looking today. I didn't see it unless they did it in like the last hour or something. But we still haven't seen Trump's executive order banning regulations, essentially. Well, we don't know what it is because they haven't issued it yet, but it's rumored to be coming our way. So we're waiting on that, Trump's executive order on AI. The military's not waiting. They're already rolling it out full steam ahead here. What do we got? What else do we got today? DC police chief resigns. Yeah, because it's complete failure there in Washington, D.C., with the National Guard having to be on the streets. We got immigration news. Here illegally, the Deportation Express, as the trolling continues from the White House, Department of Homeland Security, and ICE. What else do we have? We'll take another look at this dictionary of depravity, wow.dhs.gov, worst of the worst website they launched yesterday. We can't get into the military website. Apparently you have to work for the government and have a password or something to log in. So we'll cover that. Silver breaks an all-time high. Breaks an all-time high today, over $60. Over $60 an ounce for the price of silver. We got Catholic news, child sex abuse news, Catholic Church news about that nationally and all the way back here to Fresno. I have a report out of the Fresno, California diocese and what they're doing to skirt responsibility for sexual abuse of children. We got public health news. The Atlantic admits that some children may have died from miracles. And so a breakthrough there, but not really. Sadly, our doctor, after we had to get rid of Bill Gates during the bat time, because Bill Gates cheated on his wife, amongst other things, that he was wrongdoings where we just couldn't have him be our doctor. And so we transitioned to a new doctor, Dr. Rachel Levine. And so we were doing well in the during the whole fake bat time with a fake doctor, their assistant secretary at Health and Human Services. But sadly, it's been announced that HHS is being bigoted against our former doctor, Rachel Levine, and changed the name placard to Richard Levine. And so very bigoted, shocking news there coming out of Health and Human Services. We'll cover that more and more public health news. Bunch of geopolitical news. Looks like Trump's throwing down the demand for a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine by Christmas. Peace by Christmas. We hope We hope so. Bunch of geopolitical news and a bunch of aardvark news. The genocide continues. They're stacking bodies, and aardvark land's threatening to go ahead and start a war with Syria. Cover all that and much more on this Tuesday edition of Weaponized News. Let's get to this day in history. On this day, and I had to practice my pronunciation. I'm working on my pronunciation of these foreign names. On this day of December 9th in the year 1738, the aardvarks are expelled from Brasileau Silcia. Brasileau Silcia, I do believe is the correct pronunciation. So the noticing was happening there in Brasileau Silcia as the aardvarks expelled on this day, 1738. I know, very antiseptic of them. In 1868, on this day, the world's first traffic lights are installed outside the Palace of Westminster in London, resembling railway signals. They use Simfrom arms and are illuminated at night by red and green gas lamps. That's pretty funny. I grew up in a very small town over here in Central Valley of California. Kerman, California is the name of it. And we only had one stoplight in that town, and that was like the main Four Corners drag that it was, you drive through and you blink and you miss it. And so this day in history always reminds me of that one stoplight town, Kerman, California, those many years ago. In 1941, on this day, we saw the first United States World War II bombing mission in the Far East as America bombed the Philippines, Luzon, Philippines, on this day. Also in 1941, on this day, coincidentally, tying in with all the World War II news, all wars are bankers' wars. In 1941, Bank of America headquarters in San Francisco opens as new Bank of America headquarters. Of course, they're behind funding the wars. In 1941, also on this day, Hitler orders U.S. ships torpedoed. Adolf Hitler orders U.S. ships and those loyal to the U.S. to be torpedoed 3 days before he declares war on the United States. Also in 1941, China declares war on Japan, Germany, and Italy on this day. 1948, on this day, UN General Assembly unanimously approves Convention on Genocide. And the next day, aardvark land started genociding the Palestinians. I don't know if it was that close, but pretty damn close. You know what I'm saying? 1953, on this day, General Electric announces all communist employees will be fired. 1953. In 1965, A Charlie Brown Christmas, the first Peanuts animated special, premieres on ZBS News in 1965 on this day, or just ZBS channel in general there. In 2014, on this day, CIA torture report released detailing the CIA's use of torture on detainees between 2001 and 2006. And then finally, on this day, just 4 years ago, in 2021, actor Jussie Smollett found guilty of falsely reporting a hate crime in 2019 in Chicago court. It was later overturned in 2024. This is MAGA country. Remember that whole ridiculous Jussie Smollett scandal? On to this day in our civil liberties history. And we take a look at UN General Assembly adopts Convention Against Genocide. The document is often referred to as the Genocide Convention. The United States did not ratify it until November 4th, 1988, 40 years later. The leader of the ratification campaign in the United States Senate was Wisconsin Senator William Proxmire, who, in an extraordinary campaign, spoke on the subject every day. The U.S. Senate was in session for 20 years. That was quite an effort. I'm sure he would approve of our never-ending support of genocide there in Gaza. So shout out there to that Wisconsin senator. On this day in 1958, the John Birch Society, hardline anti-communist group, was founded. The John Birch Society, founded on this day, became one of the most stringent anti-communist and anti-civil liberties organizations in the late 1950s and 1960s. The group was named after John Birch, who the organization's founder believed was the first American to die in the Cold War on August 25th, 1945 in China. The founder and for many years director of the organization was Robert Welch. And then where are we at here? We have a couple more. In 2013, on this day, even video games, NSA spying on electronic games on internet was exposed on this day. They're spying on everything we do. In a story based on national security documents stolen and leaked by Edward Snowden, it was revealed on this day that the NSA had even spied on the use of electronic games on the internet. Needless to say, there was no valid justification for such spying in terms of national security. Yeah, it's for your own safety. I don't know what people, if you're not doing anything wrong, you know what I mean? We'll get to those stories later in the show. Yeah, the government will say you're doing it wrong the next second after you thought it wasn't wrong. So all those idiot arguments are for bootlickers that love the government. And I'm sure the bootlickers that love the government will love this. And on this day in 2014, Senate Intelligence Committee released a report on CIA torture program. The Senate Intelligence Committee on this day released its long-awaited report on the CIA torture program in the war on terrorism. The released version of the report was heavily redacted, 525-page summary of the full 6,000-page report. The release involved a long battle between the Senate committee and the CIA, as well as disputes between Democrat and Republican members of the committee. Senator Dianne Feinstein, then the chair of the committee, accused the CIA of spying on the committee's investigation in violation of the law. Of course they were. But you can only get upset when the government's spying on the government. Me, you, Joe Blow citizen taxpayer, who cares? You're probably a damn Hamas terrorist anyway. The report focused almost entirely on the CIA. Some critics argued that by doing so, it absolved members of the George W. Bush presidential administration of their responsibility in authorizing torture in the wake of 9/11 attacks on the United States. They're damn criminals. That's your government. And with that, left-right divide. I blame the Democrats. No, I blame the Republicans when you should be blaming the government because it's a crime syndicate. Here's our segue to the news.
Well, the Democrats are the greatest con artists in American politics. They are pretending to champion the issue of affordability when they themselves created the worst inflation.
The Democrats are con artists. So are the Republicans. Your entire government are lying criminal scum. The entire government. Oh, here's Trump. This is why they're going to lose here in the upcoming midterm elections next year, because Trump is disconnected from Main Street here now in his elitist bubble in this interview with Politico.
Pretty good.
But I do want to talk about the economy, sir, here at home, and I wonder what grade you would give
A plus.
A plus.
Yeah, A plus 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 plus.
Well, it's interesting because I talked to a supporter of yours. Her name is Melanie from Westmoreland County, PA.
Pretty good.
This is simply not true for Main Street here, where I'm at. Recapture the American dream. The U.S. Labor Department put out this meme. Looks like classic California, Southern California. We're not going back to America's 1950, but people have nostalgia. I understand. It's just simply not happening. Department of Labor meme of the day. There, they say, President is working around the clock to reverse years of America Last globalist policies that prioritized foreign labor, drove wages down, and sold our people out. That's your same government right now. We're making progress, and we won't stop fighting until we recapture the American dream for the American people. Yeah, everything automated with weaponized humanoid robots in a technocracy. Oh, they leave that part out. Here's what: don't threaten the government. Don't threaten any public officials. You will go to jail. This guy, I don't know what this guy's deal is. Not too bright with a face tattoo, obviously. But Raleigh man sentenced to prison for threatening to kill President Biden and Secret Service agent. So this guy caught 2-year sentence. Michael James Furr, 31, received a sentence of 2 years and 3 months in prison after pleading guilty to a charge in which he threatened to kill former President Joe Biden and a U.S. Secret Service agent. Really? 27 months in prison. Don't threaten these criminals in the crime syndicate known as your government. They will come after you and put you in a cage, as was the case with this gentleman. Mr. Furr posted several comments on X January 10th, including death threats to the president, and officers said U.S. Secret Service agents interviewed Furr just 4 days later, when he then threatened to kill them. So, yeah, not too bright there. Not too bright. Continuing here. We reported on this yesterday, but a little bit deeper look. This group on the internet, 764, DOJ charges former Navy sailor, 4 others for alleged roles in monstrous online extortion group. Oh, I'm sorry, I misread that. More than 764 related arrests. What the heck's that? I forget the name of the group. I think we have it here. Authorities say the group, Gregory's Cult, later helped spawn the 764 network. Okay, so there's 76, but how do you write it here? More 764 related arrests and indictments across the country last week. 5 individuals in 5 states arrested on charges including engaging in child exploitation enterprise and producing child pornography. This is modern day terrorism in America, and the FBI will keep working daily to dismantle the network and all those criminal actors associated with it. And that's this. It is the 764 network there. So be aware with your use on the internet. Not only this, but there's many of these groups looking to exploit children. And so they did make that announcement yesterday from the FBI. DC police chief steps down to spend more time with her family after Trump crackdown. Well, what was the point of having a police chief there if they failed at their job, according to the federal government, and they had to bring in the National Guard? Seriously, what's the point? Oh, retire on a fat pension after failing at your job? I mean, these people are jokes. It's that bad. We're led to believe that essentially we have to have federal troops in the streets in Washington, D.C., de facto martial law. And this joker right here, D.C. police chief, gets to just quietly resign and walk away from complete and utter failure. Smith, a longtime federal law enforcement official and former head of the U.S. Park Police, assumed command during one of Washington's most volatile years in nearly 2 decades. And so now Pamela Smith, appointed in 2023, have been brought in to stabilize a department facing staffing shortages and a city shaken by post-bat crime. And so she failed at her job, but at taxpayers' expenses, going to be rewarded very handsomely here now. What a freaking joke. There you go. Here's and still we're waiting for someone in the Biden administration from an NGO, from a nonprofit. We're looking at Aardvark and Catholic charities specifically. We know we're involved in the smuggling process here, but no one gets in trouble.
You know, it's interesting. 2 years ago, a year ago, under Biden, this country was out of control. Millions of people pouring through, totally unchecked, totally unvetted. And now we have nobody coming in. We have them coming in only legally. They have to go through a legal process. Nobody ever talks.
Amy Pope at UN Immigration. You can start there. Mayorkas. But no. The State Department, make America safe again. The government can't and won't keep you safe. Here's the meme of the day from the State Department. It says 85,000 visa revocations since January. Trump and little Marco adhered to one simple mandate, and they won't stop anytime soon. Make America safe again. Government can't and won't keep you safe. And so what is going on with this madness out of the Department of Homeland Security? They've taken upon themselves to redline and do their own editing on this article from the Salt Lake Tribune. Let's take a look at this. This is edited by your Department of Homeland Security. They say a Utah soccer coach, sodomite, was following exactly process to get legal status, but ICE arrested him anyway. So instead of following exactly, it should say abusing children. Disgusting and revolting. Salt Lake Tribune has completely lost the plot in their indefensible spin for a sodomite and child abuser. They're bold claims coming from the Department of Homeland Security against the free press of the Salt Lake Tribune there. Bizarre to see the government editing the Salt Lake Tribune. And I guess we'll see a lot more out of that. Maybe we should just get rid of all media and just have the implant give you your thoughts about licking the government boots. That's the way this government would like it. Meme of the day from the Justice Department here now. They say the last administration left us with an immigration crisis. It's always blame the last guy. And watch, when the next administration, it's going to be all this administration's fault. You see, that's how they do it. And in some part, that's true. It takes like a year, 6 months. Everything's accelerated, so we want it now. Blame the last guy. Meme of the day from the Justice Department. Define America for generations. Join.justice.gov. And of course, the Lady Justice there. The scales of justice are blind. You see. And we're still looking for Epstein files somewhere. Somebody will get in trouble for all this trafficking. Oh no, never mind. That's a Democrat hoax. Trolling from the White House. Believe you can go home. It doesn't matter where they're going. What matters is deciding to get on board. And then here's meme of the day from the White House. Here illegally, the Deportation Express this holiday season. Believe you can go home. Customs and Border Patrol home app to self-deport. Right there. Illinois politicians have released over 1,700 criminal illegal aliens since January 20th. Let's watch this report out of Fox News posted by the Department of Homeland Security. If this is all true, the claims they're making, why does no one in the government ever held accountable for anything? I guess we just scream democracy and say, well, the people of Illinois love criminals doing violence against them. I guess that's what we're led to believe here now.
Crimes of those 1,700 who were released back into the public include 5 homicides, more than 140 assaults, 15 weapons cases, and 10 sexual predatory offenses, according to ICE. And on top of those, the agency says there are still another 4,000 other individuals that are currently in custody across the state of Illinois who ICE has requested be handed over that could also be set free. Acting Director Todd Lyons sent a letter to Illinois Attorney General Kwame Raoul calling on the AG to put the safety of Americans first. And Raoul's office replied saying Lyons does not understand the role of the AG, writing, "The Attorney General does not oversee pretrial or post-trial detention of individuals in custody for state criminal offenses, nor is the Attorney General in a position to unilaterally override state law and mandate that the hundreds of local law enforcement agencies in Illinois preemptively accede to thousands of unspecified ICE detainers." But one former police chief in Illinois says the AG is just playing politics and putting the public at risk.
I mean, when your title is Chief Law Enforcement Officer and you're not cooperating with ICE, and then that rolls down to not cooperating with local law enforcement, you shouldn't hold that office.
We spoke with Jennifer Botts. You may remember her daughter, Megan, whose body was found stuffed into a trash can, decomposing for more than 2 months in the backyard of an illegal immigrant who was charged with tampering with a corpse and concealment of death. But under Illinois law, those charges didn't qualify for him to be detained, so he was released and free until President Trump stepped in and had ICE track him down. When Jennifer hears that 1,700 criminal illegals were set free just this year, she thinks of how many other families could be affected like hers.
This is me as a mom who had to learn the hard way. And I think that people don't understand. I think they don't understand it because it doesn't affect them.
Jennifer told us that she asks herself every day, would my daughter still be here?
So how does the government have legitimate authority if no one ever takes responsibility in the government for its failings? It doesn't. It's illegitimate, you see. But they play all these games. And that is a very tragic and sad story. Illinois politicians have released over 1,700 criminal illegal aliens since January 20th. Dictionary of Depravity, Department of Homeland Security tells us with this post. We covered it briefly yesterday. Here it is again. Department of Homeland Security has launched wow.dhs.gov for Americans to see the criminal illegal aliens that we are arresting, what crimes they committed, and what communities we remove them from. Find the worst of the worst arrested. That's all fine, well, and dandy here on this new government website, dhs.gov/WOW. Wow. This is all fine and dandy. Get all these criminals off the streets 100%. But, where are we at? Where are we at? We'll give them, we'll be generous and say 600,000 out of 30 million. And so they've completely and utterly failed on mass deportations here now, and continue to distract And again, where is local law enforcement? You have the worst criminals, the murderers, rapists, drug dealers, the worst child molesters, the worst of the worst, the worst. The government's telling us, where the F are any local police at? They just let these guys run around and do whatever, run their rackets. You know what I mean? Something ain't right about all this. That we need this federalization of police and total failure at the local level of law enforcement. So you can't demand that you're the authority, yet take no responsibility when you fail. You see, you get disrespected that way, government. But don't threaten them, for God's sake. You'll wind up in jail like that joker that we. But just call them out and say, you're not legitimate. I mean, you're a joke. You're the crime syndicate. Don't make violent threats against them. Just call them out as the criminals that they are. Simple enough. But so here's the site. Here's the site of WOW and a database. And we're still looking for Epstein. Anybody involved with that? We're still looking for that. But a lot of bad criminal illegal aliens. We're still looking for those responsible for even allowing these maniacs into the country in the first place. We lost those off Bondi's desk as well, apparently. But yeah, it just goes on and on and on. And no doubt, these are not good people. You know what I mean? But again, you can search by your state here. Let's take a look at California. And what region are we in? We're in America. Let's see here. We'll search by California. We are a sanctuary state here, by the way. And how has none of that gone through the courts? Where are we at here? Concealed carry, that's probably not that bad. Receiving stolen property, drug possession, burglary, dangerous drugs. Not really that bad, honestly. But anyway, you can go through here and find all your favorite criminal illegal aliens. Make trading cards this holiday season. Funded by our tax money and still failing. Woefully failing at mass deportations here now. But hey, if you're a legal alien, you can self-deport, get a free ride home and $1,000. And so that is their claim to fame now from the Department of Homeland Security, that over 1.6 million illegals have self-deported. And again, we can't believe any data coming out of the government because they're the crime syndicate. They're habitual liars. Moving on to the economy. Wow, it shot up even more since I looked last here. Silver broke. The spot price of an ounce of silver broke $60 today. And it's now at well, let me put the chart up on the screen. $61.09 right there. And so all-time record high for silver breaking out today. As we're told by Trump, it's the greatest. I'd give the economy a quadruple A. It's the greatest ever in the golden age. Joe Blow on Main Street is trying to scrape up enough change to buy some top ramen over here. But none of these jokers seem to have made that connection yet in the disconnection from Main Street. We're not even going to have pennies soon, as the mint, as the Treasury announced, last month. They will no longer be minting any more pennies as we are rushing headlong into technocracy. Okay, on to our public health section. And I do believe this is part of public health. It's very sick, demented, and these Catholic priests need to go to the wood chipper, if you know what I'm saying. New York Archdiocese announces $300 million settlement for victims of clergy abuse. And the Catholic Church identifies these child molester priests and then, ducks, dodges, dives, ships them off to some island somewhere out of the spotlight after they've abused hundreds of children, and they go on to abuse more children in third world countries. These allegations are coming out of America. The Archdiocese of New York will pay out nearly a third of $1 billion to victims of clergy sexual abuse. The Archdiocese has made a series of very difficult financial decisions to help fund the settlement. Hear me crying, the world's smallest violin for the Catholic Church, untold wealth, right? They have untold wealth at the Catholic Church, but yet they opine about having to pay the victims of their priest's sexual abuse, feed them to the wood chipper. So they're going to pay a bunch of money for doing butt stuff for little kids. It's sick. Send them to the wood chipper. If indeed they're 100% guilty and we can prove it, that's what they deserve. A list of the largest clergy abuse settlements reached by Catholic organizations in the United States. It's real bad, man. It's real bad. The New Orleans Archdiocese will pay at least $230 million to hundreds of survivors of clergy sexual abuse under a settlement approved by a federal judge Monday. Los Angeles, going back to last year in 2024, the Archdiocese of Los Angeles agreed to pay $880 million to more than 1,000 victims of clergy sexual abuse, dating back decades. San Diego, California, the Roman Catholic Diocese of San Diego agreed in 2007 to pay $198 million to settle more than 140 clergy sexual abuse claims. Oregon province of the Society of Jesus, the Oregon province of the Society of Jesus, a Jesuit order ordered in 2011 to pay $166 million to more than 450 Native Americans and Alaskan natives who were sexually abused by the clergy. Orange, California, the Roman Catholic Diocese of Orange reached a $100 million settlement with about 90 victims of sexual abuse in 2004. Boston, Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Boston agreed to pay $85 million to settle more than 500 clergy sex abuse lawsuits in 2003. Covington, Kentucky, in 2006, the Diocese of Covington paid more than $81 million to more than 200 sexual abuse victims. Philadelphia, as of 2022, the Archdiocese of Philadelphia has paid more than $78 million to settle 438 claims of clergy sexual abuse. Wilmington, Delaware, the Catholic Diocese of Wilmington, Joe Biden's home state, which serves Catholics in Delaware and the Eastern Shore of Maryland, agreed in 2011 to pay $77 million to 150 abuse victims of the clergy. Portland, Oregon, the Archdiocese in Portland was the first Catholic diocese to file bankruptcy in 2004 over sexual abuse allegations after settling more than 100 cases. By the time the bankruptcy was complete 3 years later, the Archdiocese had settled over 300 claims and paid out nearly $90 million in claims and attorney's fees. Oakland, California, the Diocese of Oakland reached a $56 million settlement with 56 survivors of sexual abuse by the clergy. And it goes on, and that's just America here now. And then right here, where I'm broadcasting from, Fresno, California, they're trying to pull a fast one. This is a public service announcement to those victims of sexual abuse by the Catholic Church. They're trying to pull a fast one here now in Fresno, California, Roman Catholic Diocese files Chapter 11 bankruptcy, trying to particularly a February 2nd, 2026 deadline for clergy sexual abuse claims that critics have labeled a self-serving loophole. This issue is drawing significant attention due to its implications for justice and accountability in historical abuse cases. The diocese filed for bankruptcy protection on July 1st, 2025, following accusations of at least 153 instances of clergy sexual abuse against children. And so the controversial deadline, victims who fail to submit claims by February 2nd, 2026 will be permanently barred from pursuing legal action against the diocese. So that's your public service announcement here for Fresno, California, Roman Catholic Diocese, sexual abuse claims. You have until February 2nd, 2026 to make those claims, or you will be blocked from any future action. Wow. Isn't that heartening this Christmas? That makes me want to, let's just play this after that, man. What a freaking nightmare. Here's Krampus. Yeah, so all those child molesters at the Catholic Church get the Krampus, man. What a freaking nightmare. And that went on for decades, right? Went on for decades. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They're the good guys. You know what I mean? It's just, damn. And that's just here in America. And again, they bust the priest sodomizing children, and then they ship them off to some third world country so they can continue the abuse here now. The Catholic Church has many, many problems. This is probably one of the worst, I would have to say here now, as they attempt to clean it up, but also cover it up along the way here now. More on public health. Here's more con man behavior out of Trump. Let's hear more from this Politico interview where Trump has he's floating the balloon out there of the idea that somehow Americans are going to get Affordable Care Act subsidies. I don't know. Here's Trump again, dolling the con.
I want to give the money to the people to buy their own health care. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. The Democrats don't want to do that. They want the insurance companies to continue to make a fortune. The Democrats are owned by the insurance companies. They want the insurance companies to get this trillions of dollars. We spent trillions of dollars goes to the insurance companies. I want that money to go to the people and let the people go out and buy their own health care. It works like magic. But you know who doesn't want it? The Democrats, because they're corrupt people, because they're totally...
Thank you, Mr. Operation Warp Speed. Thank you for reminding me how corrupt the Democrats are. What do they say here? Gunther on the Rumble, nothing pagan nor Masonic about them fellers there. Those wacky LGBTQ Catholic priests. Love is love. And if all that's true, wood chippers really do take care of those problems. So we're trying to pump up the public health scare. Everybody's like not as scared as they used to be since the bat thing died down, but They're still trying. You know, we need a good public health scare every couple of weeks to keep everybody in line, miracled up, and praising the failing Rockefeller medicine system. Well, it's working perfectly to perfection for those that are the powers that be, but for you and I or anyone that actually needs healthcare, not so much. So we're trying to keep the public health scares alive here at Weaponized News and be as pro-corruption as possible for Google and YouTube. We know they love that type of reporting. The world's first single-dosed dengue fever miracle has been announced. It's developed by the United States, NIH, and ATCC, has been approved for use in Brazil. It will be incorporated into Brazil's national miracle program in early 2026. And so keeping everybody safe once again, according to a report out of the UK Telegraph. Who cares if it works? It should be mandated that everyone take it at birth and at death. They should just give you a miracle when you're already gone. You know what I mean? Now, these disgusting people out of the Atlantic. Yes, some children may have died from miracles. Denial only serves the aims of anti-miraclers. Can you believe? Well, the Atlantic's a propaganda outfit covering up for the establishment, acting like they're anti-establishment. They're not. And so, yeah, they're still upset about these 10 children that were identified by the FDA, but now they're having to admit. But hey, what the hell? You know what I mean? Don't let the anti-miraclers win at any cost and sacrifice your children. Maybe. I won't even say it. Okay. So that's kind of big news, breakthrough coming out of the Atlantic. Remember, they were begging for amnesty because they know what they did was crimes against humanity during the BAT medical intervention period. And sadly, our former doctor here now has morphed back into her natural form, or at least being forced by the government at the Department of Health and Human Services. Trump's Health and Human Services changes transgender Biden officials' nameplate back to birth name during shutdown. And so bigoted assholes there under Bobby Kennedy Jr., obviously. And so now Rachel Levine has been renamed back to Richard Levine there, our rear admiral that was looking out for our back keeping our back safe during the medical intervention period. So very hateful there. Sad to report. HHS got its dick back. New law allowing pharmacists to dispense ivermectin without prescription takes effect. And again, we never give medical advice on the show, and we don't try to sell any of this stuff. The best advice we could say is fast and pray, because it's free and it works. So be careful out there swallowing all that horse paste with this new law being passed in Texas. Texas has become the 5th state to make ivermectin available over the counter. And so I would say be very careful taking ivermectin. It is a pesticide that does kill parasites, and it is very toxic. And I do not believe it's this miracle cure-all that was shopped around much during the BAT times. So be aware there buying your ivermectin for sure. Some more public. See, we just can't get the scaremongering up to that level of where we're at during the BATs, and we kind of miss it, right? Always living in fear. Is somebody gonna cough on me? Well, Daily Mail is still trying. At least more than 100 people infected with a rib cracking virus after outbreak on cruise ship. And what's this rib cracking virus? Oh, it's the same old neurovirus that is always having outbreaks on these cruise ships. More than 100 people have been sickened with the highly contagious virus that causes such forceful vomiting. Sufferers can experience cracking in their ribs. The norovirus there could cause you to cough so hard and choke and vomit that your ribs crack. And so, trying to make it sound as scary as they possibly can there. We do appreciate the efforts. And then here's Bill Gates at the Doha Forum, where he says he wants to bring genetically modified food to Africa. And see, Bill Gates is always looking out for those underprivileged and the poor of the world. Let's take a listen to Bill Gates tell us how he cares about feeding the poor of Africa with his GMOs.
That I believe that if we innovate by empowering those farmers, giving them an AI that's giving them advice, giving them understanding about their soils and how to improve those soils, giving them new seeds, giving them new livestock, that the opportunity for that sector is to more than overcome those headwinds and turn this into the primary area of economic growth and make Africa not only self-sufficient to help solve some of the malnutrition problems, but also a significant net food exporter. And we start where an average farm in Africa is per hectare has about 20% the output of a rich rural farm. And that shouldn't be the case. And this AI advisor that will understand weather and prices and seed varieties and diseases will be one of the key elements, along with much, much better seeds and animal genetics to achieve a great vision. And that'll be continue to be the biggest part of the African economy for the next 20 years.
And they've been selling this BS for 20 years to Africa and still not any major progress. And you see there how Bill Gates is playing God, genetically modified crops and animals and AI. You see this? Where are we at here now? Let's take our live commercial break. I do have a new offering at the Weaponized News store for you for the Christmas holiday season here now. Everybody go to weaponizednews.com. The link is in the description below in this video. Get yourself a hologram sticker, a clear background sticker, a white background. Put it on your laptop, your bumper, your guitar, your work locker, your hard hat. As we've had some listeners do, appreciate you guys out there. Help spread the word about independent reporting and analysis here at weaponizednews.com. 5 days a week. We're doing our special Monday show with Simon. That's 2, I believe, for the next 6 or 7 Mondays. 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern on Mondays, and Tuesday through Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern time. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you again, Ruckus, for sharing us there on the X, as I believe he's probably shadow banned into oblivion as we are as well. But every little bit helps. Give us that share, like, and subscribe. And here is the newest offering at Weaponized News /shop. The Weaponized News Snow Globe. Here you go. Weaponized News Snow Globe for this winter and Christmas season there. So you can get the classic Weaponized News camera gun in your snow globe for this holiday season. There it is. Go to weaponizednews.com. First link in the description below this video. And with that, Welcome back to the second half of Weaponized News on this Tuesday, December 9th, 2025 edition. Thank you for joining us. And we're back with technocracy. What a freaking nightmare this is becoming. Again, we're waiting for executive order out of Trump administration. I haven't seen it yet, so we'll probably have to report on that tomorrow or sometime this week. But hey, the Army's not waiting. Here's Secretary of War Hegseth on this is a freaking nightmare. The future of American warfare from your Department of War.
The future of American warfare is here, and it's spelled AI. As technologies advance, so do our adversaries. But here at the War Department, we are not sitting idly by. Under the leadership of President Trump, America will lead the charge on this technological transformation by revolutionizing the way we win. And that's why today we are unleashing GenAI.mil. This platform puts the world's most powerful frontier AI models, starting with Google Gemini, directly into the hands of every American warrior. At the click of a button, AI models on GenAI can be utilized to conduct deep research, format documents, and even analyze video or imagery at unprecedented speed. Building on the great work of Undersecretary Emil Michael and his team, we will continue to aggressively field the world's best technology to make our fighting force more lethal than ever before. And all of it is American made. The possibilities with AI are endless. Now, let's get to work.
There you go. Google working directly with the Department of War, as it was a DARPA project originally. So there you go. In our free market capitalist society, we have fascism. It's beyond fascism. It's technocracy. That's where we're at here now. And they've been building it out for a long time. Now they're throwing in our face GenAI.mil, and we can't go there. Well, we can go there, but we can't access it because here's what it says when you go there. You have to have a login. You've reached this page because you are not authorized to visit GenAI.mil from outside of Department of War networks. If you believe this is an error, please contact your command's IT desk. Want to access the DOW's latest AI tools? Join military today. Today's military.com. Yeah, don't join them. Don't join them. Don't join them. War's a racket, and all wars are bankers' wars. Do not sign up for these maniacs program. Drone dominance. The Department of War. This came out today as well. The Department of War will unleash American drone dominance by bolstering the U.S. drone manufacturing base, harnessing the ingenuity of warfighters, arming combat units with low-cost attack drones, and training senior officers to overcome bureaucratic aversion culture in drone procurement and training. Yeah, I'll believe it, because the whole argument is that we shoot these $2 million rockets to shoot down a $50 drone, but somehow the Pentagon is going to be good stewards of your finances when we're looking at this upcoming NDAA, $1 trillion+ to the Pentagon. It's never been accounted for. They can't pass a financial audit, and somehow, some way, we're supposed, oh yeah, they're going to be thrifty on the drones. Well, I'll believe it when I see it with all this insider dealing, working directly. Well, it's technocracy. So you can throw out all the isms. Just throw out all the isms. It's technocracy. Government working with private industry, public-private partnerships. It's technocracy. That is the definition of our system here now. And they're pulling the covers off more and more every day. Reported yesterday how they're rolling out the pilot program for digital ID in Alaska. Again, it's all coming here. Alaska pilots AI-driven digital identity payments and biometric data system. All for your own safety, of course. Here's Department of War CTO. What does CTO even stand for? I don't even know. Anyway, trying to don't trigger a seizure warning for this video. They say artificial intelligence is America's next manifest destiny. What a freaking nightmare. I don't know, that probably was not good for our freaking audio-visual brains here. I don't know what to think of that. Jeez, that's hardcore propaganda from the military, from the Department of War. Okay, here's the thumbnail of today's show. They're putting up these posters all over the place now, apparently. I want you to use AI. Go to genai.mil today. And so here's your Secretary of War, Hegseth, propaganda posters popping up, seen at the Pentagon. And so we wanted to go use that, but turns out the site doesn't work. Again, Department of War says if you have Common Access Card, CAC, and are part of the 3 million Department of War civilian contractor and military workforce, then you can use genai.mil. But if not, you can't have access. I wonder if the password's password 123. They probably just changed it, right? Okay. So we can't access genai.mil to see what is going on there. But they're rolling it out at breakneck speed here now, as we have an agenda to fulfill, don't you see? So Politico named Donald Trump the most powerful man in Europe. Make no damn sense, but apparently that's what Politico is saying here now. Donald Trump, the most powerful person in Europe, saying no other figure has influenced the continent more this year. Again, what doesn't that speak to complete and utter failure of, quote, European leadership when President of America, Don the Con, is the most powerful person in Europe? Merz, Macron, Stallmer? Man. UK slapped sanctions on Russian philosopher, and some say Putin's brain, Alexander Dugin, for destabilizing Ukraine or threatening its sovereignty. Yet they forgot about the part where they attempted his assassination and wound up killing his daughter in a car bombing incident. They forgot about that part. And what the hell, sanction him? So he's sanctioned by the UK. Trump has given Zelensky just days to respond to a U.S.-backed peace proposal that would require Ukraine to give up territory in exchange for vague U.S. security guarantees. Trump wants a deal by Christmas, peace by Christmas. That's according to a report out of the Financial Times here. And so we're back to they're fighting over the disputed territories, and Russia is not recognizing Zelensky as the legitimate democratically elected president of Ukraine. So therefore, he doesn't have authority to sign any type of peace deal. And that seems like still where we're friggin' at in this whole long drawn out saga as Russians and Ukrainians continue to die. More from Zelensky. He said, well, Trump says and this is backing up Russia's point, which is a good point. Russia's point has been, since there was no election last March in Ukraine, that Zelensky is not the legitimately democratically elected president of Ukraine and doesn't hold that authority. And so Trump says it's time for Ukraine to hold an election in that Politico interview. And Zelensky said, I'm ready for elections. I will be in Ukraine tomorrow and expect proposals from our partners and lawmakers on legal changes to allow elections during martial law. Ukraine's under martial law, you see. So maybe they'll vote for Zelensky again with rocks of cocaine shooting out his nose. Ukrainians are kind of crazy. You know what I'm saying? Now, I don't think they really support this, but what the hell? Yeah, more from Zelensky on Crimea. He says, we do not have the strength or the support of our allies to reclaim Crimea or other occupied territories. So it's looking like they're going to have to cut their losses here now as America is stepping up pressure, but Europe on the other side is saying, kill all the Russians. So that's where we're at. It's where we have been for a while here now. We need peace by Christmas. If we would have elected Trump, it would be over in 24 hours. We're a year in. We're still waiting. Funny how that worked out. Australia launches youth social media ban. It says will be the world's first domino. May not be a bad idea. I don't know. Do youths need to be on the internet that much? I don't know. You know what I mean? Probably not. Probably not, actually. Here's a breakdown of it. See, I'm old, so I didn't have social media in my youth. I didn't even have a cell phone for that matter. But I believe, if I can remember correctly, there was one or two kids when I was in high school that maybe had like the big cell phones, and that was for like emergency use only. Some kids had pagers, and that's where my youth ended with that technology, you see. So, but of course they always use children as cover, it's reasonable, right? It's reasonable to protect the children, but this is going to come back and affect everybody's freedom. And they never gave a damn about the children. Give them the miracles. Send them to Catholic Church. You know what I mean? Okay, more about this youth social media ban out of Australia. Australia has enacted a pioneering nationwide prohibition on social media access for individuals under 16 years old. See, they're going to use this for digital ID. You have to verify your age on the internet and so on. I don't even want to get into it. Let me just focus on this story. Mandating the deactivation of over 1 million existing accounts and the prevention of new registrations. This measure described as the world's first domino by e-safety commissioner Julie Inman Grant aims to shield children from the addictive and detrimental effects of online platforms on mental health. That's why we have social media, to social engineer society. The legislation received parliamentary approval late last year and becomes effective today, applying across the entire country to major platforms including Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, X, Snapchat, and Reddit, as designated by the e-safety commissioner. Social media companies are required to implement, quote, reasonable steps to verify and block underage users, with non-compliance resulting in substantial fines of up to 49.5 million Australian dollars, approximately 32 million US dollars. Notably, no penalties apply to children or their parents for violations. So all of the liability is going to be on these social media companies. Meta, the parent company of Instagram and Facebook, initiated account closures for under 16 users starting December 4th, demonstrating early compliance. Well, they're quick to lick the boots there at Meta, aren't they? Communications Minister Annika Wells has positioned the ban as a safeguard against, quote, predatory algorithms likened to behavioral cocaine social engineering. They know that you're chasing the dragon of that dopamine hit. They know exactly what they're doing, as this was all engineered by the military. You see, it's been a giant mind control program. Behavioral cocaine, emphasizing protection for Generation Alpha. The policy stems from a government commissioned study revealing that 96% of Australian children aged 10 to 15 use social media, with 70% in countering harmful content such as misogyny, cyberbullying, and grooming. I would also like to add government propaganda. That's a danger that very few are noticing. And I would say that's the most deadly of all, is government propaganda, as they convince you to go fight and die in their illegal foreign wars of aggression, you see. So government propaganda is the most deadly of all. A YouGov poll indicates 77% approve among Australians. Well, you should turn in your right to self-defense. Oh, they did that too. Never mind. It's just for safety in Australia, of course. There now. And I don't believe this poll, but what the hell? What the hell? Let's see here. Yeah, that's about it. So get ready for it to come to America here, with the digital ID pilot program launched in Alaska, all as cover of "We care about the children," when this is a ploy to bring about digital ID. Obviously, that's for the children. So Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. There's peace in the Middle East, and he's ended 8 wars. Those are Trump's claims. Here's CNN debunking Trump's 8 wars he has claimed to settle. Of course, Trump will just say this is fake news, right? As there's a dust up again today.
These are the 8 wars that Trump claimed to have ended during his address to the United Nations this fall. Let's take a look at each one of them. Number 1, Cambodia and Thailand. This was a 5-day armed conflict that ended with a ceasefire agreement in July. Today, Thailand launched airstrikes against Cambodia. Thailand's army says the strikes were in retaliation for an attack that killed a Thai soldier. Number 2, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. On Thursday, at the newly christened Donald J. Trump United States Institute of Peace, the president participated in a signing ceremony for a peace agreement with the leaders, the presidents of both countries. That war has continued, however, in part because Thursday's deal was never signed by the leading rebel coalition that's actually doing most of the fighting. And just today, a bomb explosion killed more than 30 people in eastern Congo. War number 3, Ethiopia and Egypt. This is not actually a war. It's a long-running diplomatic dispute about a major Ethiopian dam project on the Nile. War number 4, Serbia and Kosovo. This is another supposed war that didn't actually occur during Trump's presidency. Number 5, Israel and Hamas. The situation in Gaza right now is tenuous. Attacks there have continued since the October ceasefire deal. War number 6, Israel and Iran. This too was a truly hot war, both countries launching missiles against each other for 12 days this June. Number 7, India and Pakistan. This conflict heated up after a terrorist attack in April. It led to days of drone and missile strikes. The Indian government has denied that the U.S. played a role in negotiating the ceasefire. That's number 8, Armenia and Azerbaijan. It's a conflict that goes back decades. In August, the leaders of Armenia and Azerbaijan met at the White House with President Trump. They signed a declaration to seek peace, but importantly, a final peace agreement has yet to happen.
Sorry about that. We had to play CNN with that clip of all the, quote, 8 wars that Trump has brought about peace through strain. Trump won't rule out U.S. ground invasion of Venezuela, says Maduro's days are numbered. And we're waiting. We're waiting. There's a dust up. The dust up was Thailand and Cambodia. Thailand launched dozens of F-16 airstrikes into southern Cambodia yesterday and today. I thought there was, never mind. There's peace there. Who cares if they're, doing airstrikes? Trump said there's peace, so good enough for me. The Honduran president that was pardoned by Trump for cocaine trafficking as we fight the never-ending losing war on drugs here, reignited by Trump. Honduras issues arrest warrant for former president pardoned by Trump. Can't make this stuff up, man. Report out of Fox News. So Trump pardons him. Honduras says, well, he's still a criminal to us. Honduras Attorney General is calling for the arrest of former President Juan Orlando Hernandez, who was recently pardoned by President Trump. Oh, man. House and Senate agreed to make draft registration automatic. This is concerning America's youth here now. An amendment to the Military Select Service Act to direct the Select Service System, SSS, to try to register all potential draftees in the United States of America automatically has been included in the version of this year's military authorization bill. So they're trying to sneak this through in the NDAA, automatic draft registration. Be aware. Some would say there was signs, I don't know, renaming the Department of Defense to Department of War. And so we're going to have to take a look at this NDAA when we get some final we're looking at drafts of it right now, and people are saying this is antiwar.com report. So be aware, they're sneaking in a lot of snaky stuff into this new NDAA. What are you, pro-Hamas? You're a pro-drug trafficker terrorist supporter? No, actually, I don't want my young son to be automatically put into the military draft to go fight for your illegal foreign wars of aggression, you freaking racketeers. So be aware, we're gonna have to keep a close eye on this NDAA, as there's much pork and much tyranny in it here now. China may be authoritarian, communist dictatorship, but they do take care of corruption there. China's executed a former senior banker for accepting 116 million pounds in bribes as part of President Xi's ongoing anti-corruption campaign. And so there you get executed. Here, you're too big to fail, too big to jail, and are first at the trough for the money at the Federal Reserve discount window. And so you're able, as a banker in America with inside connections, as they do have access to the discount window, you're able to get those funds before they're devalued, you see. So we reward corruption here in America. In China, they're executing corrupt bankers. Just saying, man. And I voted for Jared Kushner, as all good MAGA Trumpers did, as we were promised throughout the campaign that Jared Kushner and his wife, Trump's daughter, would have no part in this administration. Turns out, globetrotting Jared Kushner is taking much part in this administration, as we continue to report he's brokering peace deals in Aardvark land in Gaza between Russia and Ukraine. Now, Jared Kushner is sticking his nose in this American media merger, potential acquisition. Jared Kushner's affinity partners, along with the Saudi and Qatari sovereign wealth funds, take financing role in Paramount's $180 billion hostile bid for Warner Brothers Discovery. And so isn't this going to be wonderful? America First has Saudi and Qatari backers for Mr. Aardvark, Jared Kushner's firm Affinity, to help broker an American media deal. And this is exactly what we voted for, isn't it, MAGA? This guy all up in everything. And of course, the Trump administration is going to meddle in said dealings to tilt it for Aardvark's favor. Sorry to report to you. Some good news finally here, apparently, according to this report. Tony Blair dropped from Trump-led Gaza Board of Peace. Did they get the memo that this psycho is on the scale of, Dick Cheney, George W. Bush, and so on? Did they get the memo? So apparently he won't be part of this. Tony Blair, of course, former UK Prime Minister and one of the architects of the Iraq War, has been dropped as a potential candidate to serve on President Trump's Board of Peace in Gaza, according to a report out of Financial Times. So they didn't think they could swing Psycho Blair there on the board and sell it to us as a Board of Peace. So that's some good news. Under draconian plans, the UK government is consulting on the use of technology that analyzes citizens' motions and emotions using public CCTV cameras. And so Big Brother UK is headlong into technocracy, all for our own public safety, of course. The British government is planning to expand surveillance measures by implementing cameras capable of analyzing movements and emotions in public spaces. This initiative is claimed to help prevent crime and suicides. Here's your pre-crime out of the UK, you see. Yeah, well, that guy was a little bit fidgety. Looks like he needs an arrest. Is that a mouse in your pocket? Or are you happy to see me? And so if you're wearing a baseball cap, carrying a backpack, or driving a van, you may be up to suspicious activity there in the UK and targeted by public surveillance CCTV cameras, all for our own safety. Maybe import some more jihadists that you radicalize there in the UK. I'm sure that could help. The European Central Bank is preparing for the potential issuance of the, quote, digital euro by 2029. Here's a statement from the Central Bank of Europe. The European Central Bank plans to prepare for the potential issuance of the digital euro by 2029, assuming the European co-legislatures adopt the necessary regulations by 2026. Preparatory steps, including pilot exercises and initial transactions, could begin as early as mid-2027. And so once they get all of this fully in place, forget about it. It's over, right? Full control. Mark of the beast system, technocracy. We're edging closer and closer by the day. And so you think it's bad now in UK getting arrested for Facebook posts? Wait till you can't eat because you're critical of a corrupt, tyrannical government. And it's coming to America too. And they won't call it the central bank digital currency. It'll be called crypto, but it's the same thing by another name. U.S. Commerce Department under Howard Lutnick reportedly to allow export of powerful H200 NVIDIA GPUs to China. Why would they do such a thing? America first. Well, we have to prop up the enemy now to have some type of reasonable, to make it look realistic that there is indeed this AI Cold War going on, and we have to pump $1 gazillion into money laundering and fraud to fight the evil Chinese. As on the back end, we're providing them the technology to be the boogeyman that we all need. And here's Trump on it, Mr. America First, because it's all a stage show here and now. I've informed President Xi of China that the United States will allow NVIDIA to ship H200 products to approved customers in China and other countries under conditions that allow for continued strong national security. I thought we're in an AI race against the world. That's what they tell us, and why we have to, everything's AI now, as we prop up our supposed competitors around the world, because we just have to beat them. That's why we're giving them the freaking microchips to build the infrastructure to be the boogeyman in the AI Cold War. America first. Florida blacklists Chair and Muslim Brotherhood as foreign terrorist organizations. The move comes amid Trump's push to review Muslim Brotherhood chapters and intensify persecutions of pro-Palestinian activists. Well, get all these damn chairs and Muslim Brotherhoods. Yeah. Well, they've been designated in Florida as a foreign terrorist organization following the steps of Texas. And so look for a lot of Muslim hate to be increasing here now. Aardvark land bombed Syria over 600 times since Shara seized power. And so not looking good there, but it's mostly peaceful bombings. The Aardvark army occupied large swaths of southern Syria after Assad's government fell and has refused to withdraw despite Damascus vowing not to pose a threat to Tel Aviv. And so Tel Aviv is not believing the former Al-Qaeda ISIS head al-Shara there in the Syrian president, it seems. I don't know why. He is a good guy, according to Trump. UK, all his terrorist days are behind him. He's back in the fold of Western intelligence, coming back home to lead Syria. Well, seems like Aardvark land is having issues with this. We have more reporting. Where's that? Well, we'll get to it. We'll get to more on Syria and Aardvark land. But continuing here, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and China strengthen ties at third trilateral meeting. The trilateral meeting between Iran, Saudi Arabia, and China concluded with Beijing reaffirming its commitment to fostering closer ties between Tehran and Riyadh. And so, strange bedfellows there, Iran, Saudi Arabia, if they ever got together and cut their, petty Muslim disputes, as we're told, one side's the Sunnis, one side's the Shias, allegedly, and that's causing this divide why they can't ever unite against the greater threat of Aardvarkism. Well, we'll see. China issued a statement underscoring the importance of respecting sovereignty, territorial integrity, independence, and security under the UN Charter, OIC Charter, and international law. It praised China's role in facilitating dialogue and monitoring the accord while highlighting progress in consular coordination that enabled the safe travel of over 85,000 Iranian pilgrims and more than 201,000 Umrah pilgrims in this year. It has also celebrated growing exchanges between Iranian and Saudi research centers, academic institutions, media organizations, and cultural bodies. So that's not good for the West. This right here, not good. Aardvark Land plans to spend $740 million on propaganda in the coming year, 2026. And so don't be antiseptic, you see. This is a report out of the Libertarian Institute. They go on to say, a proposal calls for nearly quadrupling Aardvark Land's public diplomacy, or HASBRA, budget, or genocide propaganda. The plan calls for increasing the propaganda budget to $729 million in 2026, up from $150 million this year. So they're only throwing $150 million at it this year. And there's quite a bit of propaganda on the internet, if you haven't noticed. Over the past years, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so they're looking at, well, don't be anti-aardvark. A fair filing revealed that Tel Aviv is paying some influencers up to $7,000 per post that promotes Aardvark Land narratives. Aardvark Land is also planning to spend $145 million in influence popular AI chatbots. So you can be on your AI chatbot and get an advertisement for genocide. Isn't it wonderful? Don't be antiseptic. So look for giant propaganda campaigns all next year. Wonderful, I know. Reporters Without Borders declares Aardvark Land worst enemy of journalists. The Aardvark Land Army remains the single largest cause of death for journalists worldwide. Nearly half of all journalists killed across the world between December 1st, 2024 and December 1st, 2025 were victims of Aardvark Land Army, according to a new report by Reporters Without Borders. Yeah. According to the report, 67 journalists were killed over the last 12 months. Reporters Without Borders says at least 53 of those cases occurred in war zones or at the hands of criminal organizations. The organization attributes 43% of all deaths to Aardvark armed forces operating in Gaza, placing Aardvark Land at the center of the year's global death toll of journalists. So they do appreciate the free press there in Aardvark Land, as has been demonstrated by their leading the world in killing of journalists. Here's old Tucker over there at the Doha summit. Tucker, we reported yesterday that he's has reported that he's buying a house in Qatar. And so everybody that likes a Qatari, there may be something to that, even though we're operating hand in hand with the Qataris that are military based in Idaho. So Qatari's Prime Minister, Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani, this is the guy have 5 names, tells Tucker Carlson that Qatar's ties with Hamas started at the request of the U.S. over a decade ago. Yeah, Aardvark Land, Western Intelligence, America, UK, they created Hamas, you see. Chuck Schumer, thankfully somebody's looking out for aardvarks out there. The Palestinian formerly known as Chuck Schumer here now, has introduced a resolution to condemn Nick Fuentes for his views and Tucker Carlson for platforming him on his podcast. And so, as you could see, as we report, Aardvark's are big pro-free speech guys. Let's hear now from the Palestinian Chuck Schumer.
America, we're witnessing a disturbing and alarming trend. Anti-Semitism and white supremacy, and indeed neo-Nazism, just saying the word sends shudders down one's spine, are increasingly running rampant in our society. These deeply pernicious forms of hate, spewed by right-wing radicals like Nick Fuentes, and platformed by people like Tucker Carlson, who almost seem proud to platform them, have pushed America closer to a tipping point, where Jewish Americans and all those targeted by white nationalist hate are all too often looking over their shoulders, fearing for their safety.
It's Tucker and Nick Fuentes causing the bigotry and hate and antiseptic behavior in America. It's not the stack of bodies, the dead reporters, the genocide, ethnic cleansing. It's none of that. It's not the $700 million propaganda campaigns. It's none of that. Here's Netanyahu. It's not the 1,000 pastors that are being recruited by Aardvark Land Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's none of that. It's Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes. Here's Netanyahu addressing the 1,000 pastors. Talk about make you want to throw up here now.
Israeli leaders encourage the pastors to be bold and express gratitude for their support.
Stand up and be counted. Tell the truth. Speak to young people. Speak up and be counted. I'm counting on you, and I know you'll do what has to be done. That's what our destiny calls for.
This is not just Israel's fight. This is a fight for civilization. We are facing very much a civilizational struggle like we saw in the 30s between Nazism and the free world. Today, that Nazism is Islamism in coordination with communism, which today's expression is called woke, but it's the same thing.
Behind the scenes, Shira Mills of the Friends of Zion Museum helped make the summit possible.
Never been done before. This is something very unique, very difficult, but here we are. From my point of view, it's miraculous.
The vision going forward, recruiting 10,000 more pastors in the next 36 months.
Because there's a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of young people that are not for Israel, and they're just getting the wrong information. So our whole idea here is to reach the youth of America and around the world and just show the truth.
With 1,000 pastors gathered at such a critical moment for the nation of Israel, when anti-Semitism is rising in our nation and globally, this has been such a pivotal turning point. I believe we can turn the tide of anti-Semitism.
1,000 pastors and leaders that didn't even know each other. And he called and we heard the word of the Lord. And this is a season to see anti-Semitism defeated and to see God's glory come to his chosen people.
There you go. Dimmer says, yeah, it looks like Fuentes, Carlson are ops. Well, we know Carlson is. Fuentes, yeah, looking like it. Looking like a Fed. Looking like Feds to me, bro. More about Aardvark just can't stop taking land. They just can't stop taking land. Syria yesterday, of course, celebrated the 1-year anniversary of the liberation from the Assad dictatorial regime. Here's the Syrian army during military march in Damascus yesterday. They say they're chanting Gaza, Gaza, our rallying cry, victory and steadfastness, night and day. We rise against you, enemy, we rise. From mountains of fire, we make our way. From my blood, I forge my ammunition. From my blood, rivers will flow. Here's the video of the Syrian army. And so Aardvark Land saw this video and they took some offense to it. Here's Aardvark minister, Ami Chikaya Kili. And he says war's inevitable. Here's the post. War with Syria is inevitable. Maybe they will answer that question. Why do these radical jihadist terrorists, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, whatever spin-off name they want to give it, the boogeyman out there, why do they never attack Aardvark Land? Maybe Syria will answer this question. Just saying. We want peace. We want peace. But UNICEF child malnutrition cases surge despite October ceasefire. The United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, UNICEF, reports that thousands of children in Gaza have required care for acute malnutrition since the October ceasefire that was intended to allow a significant rise in humanitarian deliveries. The agency said 9,300 children received care for severe acute malnutrition last month, or 2 months ago now, in October, coinciding with the start of the first phase of the U.S. brokered ceasefire agreement, which there is no ceasefire. From earlier today, heavy artillery fire being reported into Khan Younis city, south of the Gaza Strip, every day. Ongoing Aardvark Land attacks in Gaza. Violent raids are currently taking place in Al-Tufa neighborhood east of Gaza City as helicopters open fire north of Gaza City. Over the past 24 hours, Gaza hospitals, according to a report by Gaza Ministry of Health, have received 1 dead and 6 injured. I guess that's a ceasefire. Only 1 dead. Only 1 dead. That's a ceasefire, bro. No phase 2 talks until Aardvark Land implements phase 1 of Gaza ceasefire, Hamas says. Hamas official Hassam Badran warned that Aardvark Land is openly violating the ceasefire agreement, pointing to comments by Aardvark Land Army Chief Enol Zamir, claiming the, quote, yellow line now serves as Gaza's new border. Let's take a look at that. We've been reporting on the infamous yellow line. Let's take another look, if I can find it quickly here on our map. And so now they've stolen all that land, according to their army, which was the plan the entire time. Peace in the Middle East, bro. It's a ceasefire. Nothing could be further from the truth. It was never part of the plan. Don't give them any ideas, because they'll use these ideas to, now I can't find the map. Where the heck's the map here? Anyhow, you guys know what I'm talking about. The infamous yellow line. We covered it a bunch here. If you step over that line, they whack you, right? Anyhow, I can't find the map right now. We got to continue the reporting here. Anyhow, you can look it up. Apologies for that. Continuing here, Bardan said Aardvark Land has failed to meet any phase 1 commitment, citing the closure of Rafah crossing, obstruction of shelter deliveries, reduced humanitarian aid, and continued killings and home demolitions inside the yellow line. He stressed that phase 2 negotiations cannot begin without firm pressure on Aardvark Land from mediators and the U.S. to enforce full compliance with phase 1. As long as Aardvark Land continues breaching the deal and shirking its obligations, there is no basis to move forward. There's no freaking ceasefire. You know what I mean? The whole place is continuing to be leveled here now. There is no ceasefire there. Phase 1. Phase 2, we don't even have phase 1. Aardvark Land occupation forces demolished 3 inhabited residential homes and several living rooms that housed 20 members of the Harab family, in addition to destroying solar panels, 2 wells, water tanks, and uprooting or damaging around 30 trees from the family's orchard there in the occupied West Bank. "22,000 Aardvark soldiers treated since October 7th with mental health conditions." So there's some Aardvarks out there with a conscience that have a soul still. They haven't been fully radicalized into Zionism. The Aardvark Land Defense Ministry's Rehabilitation Department announced today that it has cared for roughly 22,000 injured soldiers since October 7, 2023, with more than half dealing with psychological issues. You execute women and children and innocent male civilian combatants. You might have a conscience about that. And so we're seeing that come out now with 2 Aardvark soldiers committed suicide in the last week because they couldn't live with themselves and the crimes that they've committed for the state of Aardvark Land and Zionism. So it's sick. They're destroying themselves along with the Palestinians here now, and along with America for that matter, for supporting them. And so it is definitely a deal with the devil to support Aardvark Land ethnic cleansing, genocide, and greater real estate redevelopment program and theft of natural resources. You see, I guess real estate would be considered land, a natural resource. So, but also throw in the petroleum and other minerals there. So, yeah, they're destroying themselves along with the Palestinians and anyone else's credibility that supports this program. And then finally, the good news of the day. All the ways Aardvark Land is being canceled. From Eurovision boycotts to UN walkouts, the Aardvark state is facing backlash in every arena of public life. Because of Tucker and Nick Fuentes, all this antiseptic behavior. And then we had a list, but apparently it's been a paywall now, and I can't quite get to it. So apologies for that. But and we're reporting on the boycotts, the protests, and so on. So that is the good news. Aardvark Land is being canceled, but of course not enough, as we're going to face this giant, $700+ million propaganda campaign, and your corrupt Christian Zionist preachers are going to be telling you how much you should love them. And so we're going to face all of that. We're already facing it, but next year they're really going to turn the screws on it. And so I predict next year they're going to go after, here in America, they're going to turn the screws on antiseptic behavior on the internet, which was all the rope that they gave you long enough to hang yourself, i.e. Tucker, i.e. Nick Fuentes, i.e. Fed, setting you up to take a fall. And so that is exactly the way it's all playing out here now. So don't be antiseptic, hug an aardvark, be pro-peace. And that's the way to live, man. And again, fast and pray. Fast and pray. And with that, we're wrapping up this Tuesday edition of Weaponized News. For you, let's go to the channels quickly, over to the Odysee channel and see if we have any chatters over there. We have a few in the chat room. Kerr, Highland, thank you for joining us. Let's see here now. Be sure to bring your digital ID for the children, Kerr said. Anything for the children. Yeah. Send your kid to, Catholic church for the children. That's about where we're at. It's extremely evil here now, what they're doing. Thank you guys for tuning in on the Odysee. Gurr is going to do a Raggedy Ann and circle back. So thank you for that. Thank you guys for tuning in on the Odysee. The Kick, Facebook, Twitch, and X. Thank you for tuning on those platforms. The Rumble and YouTube as well. Thank you for tuning in on all of those platforms. Again, shout out to Ruckus, giving us those, sharing the promos on the X. We appreciate it, Ruckus. Everybody go to alternatecurrentradio.com. Check out Ruckus over there. Maybe we can have Ruckus on tomorrow. I don't know. I'm asking him live right now, but maybe tomorrow, hopefully. Or Friday or Thursday. I don't know. We'll see. But hopefully we'll have Ruckus on soon. And with that, as always, everybody do your own research. Peace, love, and freedom. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Tuesday evening as we go into this Christmas season. Be aware, they're looking to turn the friggin' screws, and they've set all the booby traps in place. And so watch what you say, watch what you post, as the UN says on the internet, or you can and will be censored as a headlong push into digital ID. Technocracy is upon us. We'll see you back.